Now, before I share my story, and I'm pretty excited about it, there's two things I want to say. It'll be 3 years this summer. I had my 70th birthday, and a friend, I don't think she's on the call tonight. She was here from Michigan, and she had to drive me from our house to Anna's 20 minutes because sensory overload makes those kind of daily activities did make them really hard for me. It's kind of embarrassing, but I knew that if she did it, I would have more energy to get through the event and be able to show up and hopefully enjoy it and be social. So I was remembering that today. And before I share my story, I just want to say that whatever your health issues are, or your margin issues in your brain, your health, your finances, don't ever, ever, ever give up. I could have given up on a lot of things or just decide, I'm 70, I can walk away from things. I don't have to do things that have gotten hard. And I didn't do that. I've been really, really, really diligent the last several years. And this last week has just been pay dirt, amazing results.
Uh-oh. What happened?
There.
Okay.
Okay. So COVID was in 2020, and I think it was in 2022 that I got hearing aids, which I hated, wore as little as possible because just putting them in was annoying. And the little echo and the agitation and sensory overload, it was awful. So from about 22 on, being in restaurants, echo chamber, being in a car, you can't have music going, you can't roll the window down, so that kind of like gets rid of road trips. Being in church or a place where there's music, those things just didn't work.
It got so bad, she actually had me take the 8-track tape player out of the car.
Forrest, your picture is hidden.
There we go.
You-
I hit a wrong button. Yeah, so the 8-track tape player is gone. So I'm going to be taking those down to the pawn shop and seeing if we can get anything for them. But Cheryl just wouldn't let me listen to the Bee Gees anymore when we're driving down the road, the windows rolled
Oh,
down.
that's just so stupid. Okay, let's get back to the story. So here's my story, sort of in sequence.
It's not stupid, it's sad.
Stupid. So you all saw me put this on last week on the call. And I wasn't sure what I noticed, but the first 48 hours or so, 2 to 3 days, and it hasn't changed a whole lot. I am taking these very deep, expanded breaths. And when you take a really deep breath and you get that almost like little bubble at the end where it was really, really, really deep. That's happened continuously. In the first 2 or 3 days, it was like literally every 5 to 10 minutes. In addition to that, I was yawning and yawning and yawning, which anybody who does energy work, that's a sign of releasing energy. It's a sign of releasing emotions. I didn't sense I was releasing emotions, but it's a sign that your nervous system is relaxing. Because when you're uptight, you can't yawn. Not that really deep yawn where you release it. You all know what I'm talking about? That ability to yawn and breathe deeply, that hasn't left. You'll probably watch me do that, and it's on the involuntary side. Breathing is one of the few things that's both involuntary, which means the body can do it on its own, and voluntary, where you choose to do it. So we've talked about Dr. Patel and all of his amazing work with breath work, and I'm a pretty good breather. It's just gotten better. So that was one of the first things I noticed. I also started noticing that, as we've mentioned, vision was like brighter, clearer. It's not so much that like it's a better prescription or anything like that. It's like when you clean the lens on your phone and all of a sudden you go take a picture and it's more clear. We're hearing that from quite a few people. I'm sharing some of these things because these are things you can pay attention to or suggest other people pay attention to. The
That actually is important because if people aren't noticers, one of the things Cheryl noticed in the clinic is people would say over and over, nothing's changed. And then she'd say, well, what about A, B, or C? And then they go, oh, yeah, you're right. So helping people notice what's happening with the patches is an important part of your job.
So Zen, as I think I've talked about it here, it works on this part of the brain and eyes, prefrontal cortex, which is not only your memory, cognition, your creativity, your ability to form and find words. It's also where you make decisions, execute decisions, problem solve, learn. It's a very important part of the brain. And prior to getting the patch, with all that we've done with neural, I knew what this did. I know what this part of the brain, brainstem cerebellum, under threat or when you feel overly stressed or overwhelmed, you bypass this and you get stuck back here looping in fight, flight, or freeze. So knowing that was true, coming into this last week, it's like, if this overrides this, what is this going to do to this part of the brain? So I was extraordinarily curious to see what would happen. So all that breathing happened over the weekend. And then this week was a packed week. Monday was a full week. I did a lot of computer work. I had women's group. I did a 2-hour client and I did fine and I wasn't wiped. One of the biggest problems since the head injury is I would gear up enough energy to do an activity and then I would crash. I would either need a brain break, no talking, no stimulation of senses, or take a nap. I didn't do that on Monday. I was still coherent. Forrest and I had conversation. And then Tuesday, I had clients late. I didn't crash. I went and took a walk, and my brain was still good.
Saturday in the car.
Oh, no, that was Sunday. Sunday. So again, at that point, I'm wearing both patches. Well, I was going to get to that in the next one when
Is
I
that
did
coming
nausea.
up?
So yeah, just give me a minute on that. Wednesday was a full day. Didn't crash. Today.
Oh, did you cover effective Tuesday? Tuesday, one client canceled, and I said to Cheryl, I said, we need to keep the day full. We had a waiting list. I filled the empty spot because I said, we need to see how you hold up going straight through from 10 until 5. So we
5:36.
we stretched the game on Tuesday because we wanted to see if we could break the system, so to speak. And
So that was how the brain's been just solid today, which will tie in a little bit more with the Assure and the nausea. One of the things that I mentioned earlier that's been a problem is restaurants, because when I go in, the noise is a huge problem. And not only can I not eat, it will usually take anywhere from hours to days to recover. So it's just not worth it. Plus, we cook better than most restaurants. So I decided we were going to go out and see what would happen in a restaurant. I'd already done computer work this morning. We go out and we have breakfast, and I'd been in that restaurant 2 or 3 years ago down in Dallas with Melinda before going to a Cellcore event. We walked in and it was like, I can't do this. So we got our order, took it back to to the hotel where we could sit in the lobby where it was quiet because I couldn't handle the restaurant. We went through the entire meal and I kept noticing it just felt normal. There was noise and I could hear different people. There was no sensory overload. That's like a huge deal. So then we went and ran more errands in the car driving. These are all things that I would not have been able to do before. Came home, did more computer work, and then did a video before this. And we have this call, and I'm still going. That is like huge for people with sensory overload. Where too much sound or too much visual, that was huge. But it doesn't stop with that.
wait, there's more?
Yes, because I added the Assure on Friday after putting the Zen on Thursday night. I've had no nausea working out, rebounding, and walking, where one or the other, any of those would cause the nausea the last several months.
Back up. We've got new people on the call. Why is that a problem?
Why is
You got to tell the nausea story, how that happened. There's new people on here.
so? Well, first of all, with sensory overload, there can be nausea, but I had done an injury trying to do this hanging exercise and grip strength, and I pushed too far, tweaked and pulled something down in the groin, which I had my PT person work on, but it had stressed the brain. So every time I would do motion movement, I would have nausea and I'd have to go upstairs, lay down, rest, do whatever. So when I added the nausea patch last Friday, I decided I'd exercise. Saturday I did rebounding, and there's been no nausea from that. Then we were going to a friend's on Sunday. This is another really big deal because not only were the hearing aids 4 years ago a problem, then 2.5 years ago, we took a trip up to South Dakota. I had the hearing aids in the car. We had Anna, we had both dogs, so we've already got sensory overload to the max. And I would have to have Forrest stop periodically because the nausea was just really, really bad. I also at that time started later I realized we don't wear trifocals anymore. I don't wear glasses around the house. I don't need glasses to read. I have glasses for computer and I have glasses for long distance. So when we were in the car, we happened to have left late. I can't imagine how and who caused us to be late, but we were on the road at night, winding in the mountains and deer running across the highway. I had on my computer glasses, not long distance, so I couldn't see very well. That's a sensory mismatch. I had these hearing aids in that already stressed me. There were dogs yapping in the back and Forrest and Anna talking. It was awful. The whole trip was just bad. So on the way back, Boris and Anna wanted to listen to podcasts on dog training. And I said, there is no way I'm going to listen to that. So I pulled out my hearing aids, and it was the first time on the entire trip I could breathe and I fell asleep. So that was 2.5 years ago in September. Then November, the
Right,
day
so
before,
the learning curve on that was that the hearing aids actually were causing a problem for you that you weren't aware of.
in a car, the hearing aids and the wrong glasses, and just the car, all of that's echoing. I'm sharing this because people who wear hearing aids or have sensory overload, these are real issues, and other people think they're nuts, but it's incredibly uncomfortable. Uncomfortable. So that was September. The day before Thanksgiving, that's when I hit my head on the car, and that was a big problem. So now for sure, being in the car, I would never wear my hearing aids. I always make sure I'd wear the right glasses. Forrest could have no music playing, no windows down, and even then, it was maybe 15 or 20 minutes, and that was max. And that's been that way for 2.5 years. So, Sunday, we're going out to see a friend. It's about maybe 20, 25 minutes away. Hearing aids are in, and we go out and we have a conversation. And I notice going out there, I felt normal in the car. These are all big deals. Anyway, we had a conversation, spent time with her walking out and about, and got back in the car to go run some errands. Forrest doing his returns to Amazon. And about 5 or 10 minutes in, I realized Forrest had had his window down and I didn't have any reaction. I was a normal person.
Well, context, if we leave the garage, by the time we're at the end of the driveway, if the windows are down, it's bothering her.
So the car is working. Maybe we can do road trips. But that hasn't been an option for 2.5 years. Maybe we could go to restaurants if we choose to, because I didn't freak out and zone out and become a mess. The next thing will be to see if I can do church with music, because I haven't done that one yet. But I'm doing a normal full day. I have no nausea. I'm exercising. I'm not dealing with sensory overload. I still have focus, clarity, and making decisions. That's a week. That's a week. And I just want to encourage you that if you know somebody that's dealing with any of those issues, whether it's nausea or they've had a hit to the head or concussions, or if they deal with sensory overload, it's miserable to live like that. And we have two tools. I'm not really sure which is doing which, but for me, the two together, I feel like I'm getting my brain back. And in my 70s, I feel like I can do some amazing things, and I'm just kind of excited about that.
Let's, context. So we're talking about the brain. Remember, the Liberty Patch was the one we really launched with. Liberty Patch works on balance, motion, strength, and stability. What part of the brain is that? That's the cerebellum, accuracy, balance, and coordination cerebellum. Now we've moved with the Zen Patch up to the frontal part of the brain, the frontal cortex. So it's kind of cool to be working specifically with balance, movement, stability, and then brain cognition function. And if we can make the hearing aids work, that'll be huge, because I remember before we got to this age, people with hearing aids, you just kind of ignored them because they couldn't hear you. They were always fussing about their hearing aids. But again, our study of neurology the last 10 years has really opened the door to understand that. And now Cheryl's experience, that's a big deal.
So nausea is connected to ear issues, ringing in the ear, loss of hearing. So since I've been praying over my hearing for a long time, I'm just believing that it can improve just like our vision is better than it was in our 60s and 50s. Our prescriptions have gotten better because the brain does the seeing, it does the vision. Eyes just take pictures. And in neuro, they always talked about hearing was impacted by the brain, but they never gave us any resets. I never had any resets to improve hearing, and nobody could tell me what to do with tinnitus, which I don't have, I'm thankful, or hearing. So I don't know what all this can do with this, but let me tell you, I'm a good noticer and I will notice if there is a shift. And if you've got people struggling with any of this, help them make some wise decisions and I'll be glad to talk to them because I know what it's like to struggle with any of that. One last thing, weeks and weeks ago, I mentioned how I would wear Boost 24/7, even though most people take Boost off at night because it's for energy. I found that Boost with REM at night, I slept better. It wasn't so much I had more energy. I don't know what it was doing, but it helped. And I realized my brain was so desperate for energy, that it was trying to pull it from every source I was giving it. And I think that Zen is giving the energy to the brain to be up here and not struggling back here. And that one night it was like, why am I not sleeping well? And I thought, let's take Boost off. Immediately went to sleep. So as you're doing things, be willing to play, notice, and discover. And well, what if I take this off or what if I mix this? Everybody's different. You get to experiment. And the good news is there's no side effects. There's no negative side effects. If something happens, it just may mean that you need to work on a different brain pathway first. So that's my story.